Democratic lawmakers putting out a shocking video urging members of the military to, quote, refuse illegal orders. But their message could be backfiring with accusations of hypocrisy raining down on the party of no kings. Mike Emanuel has the latest on that. Hey, Mike.
Griff, good morning. Some of the bigger national security names in the Democratic Party put out a video telling our men and women in uniform they can ignore some orders.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller on X writing, quote, Democrat lawmakers are now openly calling for insurrection. Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmitt saying, quote, at the end of the day, they're mad the American people chose Trump, and now they're calling on the military and intelligence community to intervene. Sounds a little subversive to democracy-ish. Then there's this reaction from Texas Senator Ted Cruz.
Look, Democrats, unfortunately, their base within the government is the deep state. It is left-wing partisans who in the first Trump administration openly waged war with the president. And that's Democrats calling on the armed services to fight against President Trump, the CIA to fight against President Trump.
Then there's Washington Democrat Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez going after her colleague, Congressman Chuy Garcia of Illinois. Garcia initially filed to run for re-election, but then announced he would retire, ensuring his chief of staff would be the only Democrat on the primary ballot. The effort deeply divided Democrats, accusing Garcia of election subversion.
Therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives disapproves of the behavior of the representative from Illinois, Mr. Garcia.
The Congresswoman later admitted she got her, quote, ass handed to her by colleagues on the left. Griff?
All right, Mike Emanuel, live for us in Washington. Mike, thank you.
All right, well, critics are going after 6 Democrat lawmakers in particular over this plea to members of the military and intelligence communities. Watch this.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
you must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
Okay, you caught that, right? Refusing military orders. That would be treason. Reaction, as you might imagine, swift and fierce. Libs of TikTok posted, Democrats are encouraging members of the military to commit treason and defy orders from Trump. And Republican Senator Eric Schmitt says, sounds a little subversive to democracy-ish. Your thoughts on this?
Well, indeed, I think that Secretary Hegseth was right. They have stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. And it is inconceivable that you would have elected officials that are saying to uniformed members of the military who have taken an oath to protect and defend that they would defy the orders that they have been given to execute their mission. I find it inconceivable, but that is what they have chosen to do, and we will see what the response to them from Democrats. You know, Harris, I talk to Tennesseans every day. I did a telephone town hall last night. People want to see respect for the rule of law. They are appreciative of our nation's military and of the work they do to protect our nation. And I find this just so disturbing that they would say, defy the orders if you do not like the orders.
I don't think they consider the slippery slope of what that does to an already unpopular Congress. We know that all of Congress doesn't ride high in the percentages of popularity, and this takes away the trust. I mean, that is, it's untenable. Senator, I'm always glad when you're in focus. Thank you very much.
Happy to join you. Thank you.
It's taking some heat online after posting a call for active members of the military to stand against what they call illegal orders. Listen.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
Your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up the ship. Really quite remarkable. Let's bring in Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. He sits on the House Armed Services Committee and the Oversight Committee as well. Thank you so much for joining us and taking a look at this ad. I want to get your thoughts on it, because what's interesting here is that Senator Slotkin, as well as Senator Kelly, they've recently collaborated and put forth some legislation that's intended to limit the president's ability when it comes to how he deploys the National Guard across the country. But that ad doesn't seem to zero in on that issue. What do you make of it?
No, I think that ad is very problematic and it's subversive, but also it's interesting that they use no specifics. There's no specificity in it at all. It's just this broad, you don't follow illegal orders. Well, guess what? As a former active duty member of the U.S. military, that's one of the first things they teach you, is that you don't follow illegal orders. So they're being redundant as well. I would expect a video like this to come out of the fringe of the Democratic Party, not what these folks would probably self-describe them. They would describe themselves as moderate Democrats. This isn't a moderate message at all, and it's very problematic, and it really shows that they might have a little TDS in them.
Well, as you're mentioning that very thing, Senator Slotkin has presented herself as the moderate face of the party and is trying to get a groundswell of moderates to join her to push out the wokeness side of the party, that sort of thing. There's this article, a Politico headline from April. She wants Dems to ditch wokeness and muscle up. And it talks about her going forward. What do you make of this just as a political move on the part of Democrats?
I don't think it's that smart, and it also, I think that what they are often fond of saying is undermining democracy. I mean, we had an election in November 2024, and the American people resoundingly chose Donald J. Trump to be the commander-in-chief. And I want our military members to follow legal and lawful orders, which he's been issuing. I mean, I remember when Barack Obama was ordering strikes on terrorists with drones. Was that problematic for them? Because what are narco-terrorists? It's the same thing. They are waging an asymmetrical war on the United States of America, and President Trump is boldly defending us.
You know, there are public Trump officials as well as officials in the GOP that are expressing concerns about this. They've had some reaction. Here's Stephen Miller, his reaction to the Democrat Don't Give Up the Ship video. He says Democrat lawmakers are now openly calling for insurrection. We also have this sound from Senator Marsha Blackburn reacting to the ad as well. Take a listen.
They have stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. And it is inconceivable that you would have elected officials that are saying to uniformed members of the military who have taken an oath to protect and defend that they would defy the orders that they have been given to execute their mission. That is what they have chosen to do, and we will see what the response to them from Democrats.
Some fairly significant pushback there, and I think it's worth noting that the lawmakers in this ad represented a multitude of different branches of the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Central Intelligence. Your thoughts on how the GOP is reacting?
I think correctly. I mean, this was, at the end of the day, this was unnecessary, it was redundant, and it's dangerous. It is subversive, and it's really, I think it was political grandstanding, maybe to get the spotlight and grab some camera time. But it's something that we already know that the military is in very good hands, perhaps, I think, the best hands we've been in decades. And I'm very proud of what President Trump has done, because we're losing 80,000 Americans annually to opioid overdoses, mostly from fentanyl. And if we're going to take it to the narco-terrorists, more power to President Trump and Secretary Hegseth.
Senator Pat Fallon, thank you. We appreciate you joining us.
God bless. Thanks.
So this is the quote: refuse illegal orders. That's the message from a handful of powerful Democrats, all with military or intelligence backgrounds, who want service members to know their rights, they say, when it comes to strikes that they deem unlawful.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
All right, so the world's largest aircraft carrier is now stationed in the Caribbean as part of Operation Southern Spear. The U.S. military has targeted 21 suspected drug boats, killing at least 82 alleged smugglers. Tommy Lahren is here, but first to one of the Democrats in that video, Colorado Congressman Jason Crow, former Army Ranger and Bronze Star recipient. Thank you very much, Congressman, for joining us today. You see some of the pushback to this video when some look at it and say, you know, if you are in the United States military, you sign up, you carry out the mission that is assigned to you. You know, the other option is to not join the military or to leave if you feel that you can't carry out an order. But the command is just an integral part of what you sign up for, which you know way better than I do, and I thank you for your service. So, Congressman, thank you for being here. Why did you participate in this video?
Martha, we're standing by our troops, our service members who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. You know, this is really no different than what I did with my infantry platoon in advance of deploying to Iraq in 2003. I trained these young soldiers on their obligation to comply with the law of war, to comply with the Constitution, and what is a lawful versus a unlawful order.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration where he said, can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff pushed back on that.
That was not a military order. That was a comment. That's not a military order.
When that's coming from the President of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
Asking specifically right now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations, and he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about
Donald Trump
illusions. You're not talking about actual policy. You're not talking about things that are members of our service members who we revere and respect are actually being asked to do. So when you see this video on all over the place, when you see this video on social media, I think a lot of people scratch their heads and they say, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about
Martha,
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
What you're saying is we have to wait until there's a problem to respond to that problem.
No, I'm not.
Right? As a military officer, what I think is important is we train people, we give them information, we prepare people for challenges coming down the pike. That is what I did as a commander in the military. That's what I'm doing now, as we are standing by our troops. We are reminding them of their obligation.
Order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out, are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video, I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere because you're not talking about an order.
I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops of their obligation, because then it will be too late. We are standing by our troops and our amazing men and women in uniform to remind them
who sign up every day as you did to carry out the orders of the commander-in-chief. We are not engaged in new wars. We have no troops on the ground in Ukraine except some who were training pilot missions, not on any front lines of any kind. In the Caribbean right now, we've sent a carrier there. I thought these were the specific operations that are actually happening that you might be referring to. But we've created a huge presence in the Caribbean to stop fentanyl deaths, of which there were more than 48,000 plus in the last year alone. And the president doesn't want those drugs to make it to the United States. But you're not talking about any of these actual actions that have been carried out by the commander-in-chief and by the Department of Defense?
First of all, that is a separate issue. We are not talking about Venezuela at all in this video. We never mentioned it once.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But since you raised it, I actually am deeply concerned. We spent $3 trillion, 7,000 U.S. lives, hundreds of thousands of other lives in endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They ended extremely poorly because we stopped debating it. We stopped paying for it.
Yep.
We stopped
the
being
prior
held accountable for it.
Yeah.
Well, that was Republicans.
I don't remember
and
you making a
Democrats.
video about that
Martha,
at the time.
Actually, you should look it up. I did make videos about it, as a matter of fact. I pushed back on Joe Biden. I pushed back on Donald Trump. I pushed back on Barack Obama. I pushed back on George W. Bush because I had to fight those wars.
But at least that was something specific.
And I am thinking very clearly about the men and women who are being put in positions that, once again, without congressional authorization, without public debate, to do the same thing. Have we learned nothing about the last 25 years of war and endless conflict?
What this president has said is that he has not taken us to war, that he wants to prevent war, that he wants to extract us from situations where we've said from the beginning that we won't have any boots on the ground
bombing
in Ukraine.
Iran,
So I think
bombing
it's a little
the Houthis, bombing boats in the Caribbean. This president doesn't see a problem.
So we aided a mission by Israel in Iran. Did you have a problem with taking out Iranian nuclear facilities?
We've seen more conflict and more use in the military in the first 11 months of this administration than we have in any administration. What needs to happen is they need to come to Congress, and we need to debate this. And for him to say there's no new war, that's exactly the problem, because only Congress can declare a war. Only Congress, according to our Constitution, has the authority to send our men and women into conflict.
We understand the War Powers Act. We know how it works.
Well, apparently you don't, because you're saying
that's not
that
true.
no war exists, so it's not a problem. The United States Congress is the one that has to make that decision.
Specifically what your issue is. And so for prominent members of the United States Congress to tell young men and women of the military that they should not abide by illegal orders and to leave it so vague and to talk about comments that have been made in the past and what they might lead to, I think could potentially be very confusing for young men and women who have committed to service, which you honorably did, and I commend you for the sacrifice that you made. Let me just show you this. This is Senator Eric Schmidt.
I'm going to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Military service is tough. It's really tough.
I don't doubt it.
We send our men and women into very difficult, very sometimes untenable situations. I know that. I've been in those situations. That's why moral clarity, that's why reminding people about what their obligations are, that's why abiding by the law and providing guidance and training them in advance is important. You can never wait until there's a problem to train people and prepare them for that.
Well,
it's really important that we set the conditions right now to make sure that people understand their constitutional obligations. And we are only talking about unlawful orders versus lawful orders.
Right.
That is the
distinction. You just haven't
distinction
outlined what any specific unlawful order. This is Senator Eric Schmidt that he released on X. This is what he said. At the end of the day, he's speaking about the members of Congress who did this video. They're mad at that the American people chose Trump, and now they're calling on the military and intelligence community to intervene. Sounds a little, quote, subversive to democracy-ish, says Senator Eric Schmidt. So let me give you a moment to respond to that, Congressman.
Yeah, I mean, that's so patently false and absurd. I don't even know how to respond to it. What we are doing is reminding people of their obligations under federal law and under the UCMJ in no different way than I did when I was an infantry officer and an infantry lieutenant preparing my soldiers to be deployed. It is as simple as that. So people, that's unfortunate that in politics these days, people grab something and twist it and contort it and lie.
Some might say that
make it into
you have grabbed
it's
something
not.
and twisted it and contorted it. You have, you're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal, and what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising and people wanting to join the military under the president.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't have to tell me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No, you don't, sir. I have great respect for the United States military.
Well, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ, is what I'm hearing. And a recent survey showed that 8 out of 10 service members deeply understand their obligation of lawful orders, right? 8 out of 10. So we want to get that. That should be 10 out of 10. But this is something that they're trained on. Go and look at the training. Maybe even go and participate or observe some of the training that our men and women go through. It is incredible. We expect a lot of these men and women. They go through very intense, rigorous training because they're put in intense, rigorous positions. And frankly, I bristle at the notion that they can't handle a suggestion or a reminder of what the law requires them to do and what the Constitution requires them to do. You actually disparage them when you say that a simple reminder is something they cannot handle.
You're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I didn't disparage them in any way. In fact, I give them enormous credit.
You don't think they can handle reminders about their legal obligations?
I think these men and women certainly can handle it. If it was specific and they could figure out what order you're referring to, I have the most deep respect for everyone who serves in the military, including you, sir, for the sacrifice that you made. I did not make that sacrifice myself, so I put everyone who makes that sacrifice in a very special place in my heart. And I believe they're there to serve the country. So you have put out this video. It's getting a lot of attention. I thank you for joining me to talk about it. And I think, people can look at it and take away from it what they want. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to be specific about what illegal actions you were referring to. So thank you for being here, Congressman, and thank you again for your service.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, summed it up pretty well. Democrat lawmakers are now openly calling for insurrection. Stephen Miller joins me now to expand on that thought. It truly is an incredible video, Stephen, and one that you see as insurrection?
It is insurrection, plainly, directly, without question. And when you have one of the lawmakers on that video being unable to state in, as you say, lengthy cross-examination, a single so-called illegal order, it just proves the point. It's a general call for rebellion from the CIA and the armed services of the United States by Democrat lawmakers, saying that you have not only the right but the duty and the obligation to defy orders of the commander-in-chief, that those who carry weapons in America's name should defy their chain of command and engage in open acts of insurrection, that the CIA, the clandestine service, which isn't even legally authorized to operate in the United States, should engage in, again, acts of rebellion and insurrection. These lawmakers should honestly resign in disgrace and never return to public office again for even daring to think, let alone to say these words and to say them proudly. But it shows what a dangerous moment we're in. We have seen the Democratic Party nurse the flames of violence and insurrection against the federal government for the last 10 months. When you see this continuous campaign of violence against ICE officers and Border Patrol agents, when you see Democrat sanctuary politicians and Democrat sanctuary governors side with the rioters, side with the assaulters over federal law enforcement, and that spills even into juries and grand juries, when you see Democrat jurors engage in nullification to let off violent attackers who are engaging in physical violence, physical assault against federal officers. This is a dangerous moment. You have a political party, an organization, the Democrat Party, and their message is that any action, no matter how unlawful, no matter how dangerous, no matter how much it threatens constitutional order, is justified if it keeps Democrat policies in effect at any cost.
I think we might have Stephen Miller back, and hopefully he can hear me now. If you might, Stephen. I have been going through some of the comments. It's no problem. I've been going through some of the comments to your call of this as insurrection. Both Senator Slotkin and Senator Kelly say you do not understand. You do not understand the UCMJ. You do not understand the Constitution. And apparently they are the sole authorities on insurrection and the Constitution.
Look, there is nothing graver that you could possibly say as a United States Senator than encouraging, urging, directing members of the armed forces of the United States or the clandestine services of the United States to defy their president, defy their chain of command, defy their superiors. To say such a thing would require you to have and to present to the nation some extraordinary scandal beyond even our wildest imagination, which of course they don't have, because every single thing that this president has done has been not only lawful, but has been repairing and reversing the unlawful and unconstitutional behavior of the previous administration, which opened our nation's borders up to millions of illegal aliens and foreign terrorists and gang leaders and cartel operatives and everyone else threatening peace, safety, and public order in the United States. So this conduct by these lawmakers is a direct attack on this republic. But there's an even deeper issue here that we have to understand. The Democrat Party has reached a point of extremism where the only thing that they believe is legitimate are the things that keep them in power and that keep their policies in effect no matter the will of the public. So, for example, if President Trump orders an illegal alien deported, they would have their district court judges block that deportation. But if they're in power, what will they do? End the filibuster, stack the Supreme Court, appoint 10 radical loyalists, and destroy our entire constitutional order forever. In other words, they don't believe in systems, they don't believe in rules, they don't believe in laws. They believe in whatever keeps them in power. And if what they think keeps them in power is a military insurrection or a CIA insurrection, that's what they support. But if in a different setting, if, say, a soldier doesn't want to take the COVID vaccine, then they represent a threat to order in their view, and that person must be crushed and deprived of employment, deprived of opportunity. If a Democrat, for example, complains about election integrity, that person's a hero. If a Republican complains of election integrity, that person's to be jailed and incarcerated for life. This is the moment that we're in. This is what we're dealing with. So when we say that Democrats are communists, we don't just mean that, well, they believe in the state control of property. We mean they've adopted a method of thinking in which any use of force is justified for their end state of power and control. So they become a third world party, and we have to internalize that. We're not dealing with the old Democratic Party. We're dealing with a third world party.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much for fighting through the technological issues, and thank you so much for being with us here today to address what I think is a very, very, very serious moment for our republic. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
President Trump says America is back as he shows off his skills as a unifier.
My message to all of the leaders and investors with us today, and they are the best in the world, is very simple. Under the Trump administration, America is back and America is open for business.
President Trump speaking at the U.S. Saudi Investment Forum today to a pretty star-studded audience, including Elon Musk. Friends again? Seems like it. He touted investments he's brought in and his 3 favorite words, made in America.
In 4 long years, Joe Biden secured less than $1 trillion. In 9 short months, I've secured $18 trillion to rebuild our factories, create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and bring back those beautiful words, made in America.
The president mentioning Elon by name during today's remarks, the father of Doge also attending dinner last night and getting some attention from the president. The other big-time visitor, soccer superstar Cristiano Ronaldo. It was his first trip to the U.S. in nearly 10 years. He's previously heralded Trump as someone who can help change the world. So, Ronaldo gets it. World leaders get it. Business leaders get it. But not Democrats. And they are taking Trump derangement syndrome to a whole new level. We are talking about complete and total insubordination. 6 Democrat senators and members of Congress releasing a video telling our military to refuse the orders of our president. Watch.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army,
Our Navy,
the Air Force,
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
You can refuse orders. That is what those Democrats are telling our military. What orders. What are the specific orders the Democrats are talking about? This isn't soldiers in Vietnam at My Lai. This isn't soldiers in Iraq at Abu Ghraib. What specifically are they calling an illegal order? Because from this vantage point, it looks like a generalized call for insubordination, a generalized call for insurrection. One of those Democrats was just on this channel. And in an incredible cross-examination by Martha McCallum, no surprise, he had no answer.
Are they talking about
Martha.
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
What you're saying is we have to wait until there's a problem to respond to that problem.
No, I'm not. What
reminding them of their obligation
order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video. I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere.
An incredible interview, again, by Martha McCallum, and an embarrassment for the congressman. Has this ever happened before? Has there ever been a time in our nation's history where a political party made a generalized call to the military to stand down, to insubordinate, to disregard the commander-in-chief? Well, we tried and found a couple of examples, but not much. There is, of course, the Civil War, Southern Democrats, secession, insubordination, insurrection against the government of the United States. There is the Korean War, where General MacArthur publicly contradicted and disobeyed President Truman's policy of limited war. There was also the state defiance of civil rights enforcement in the 1950s and 60s. It's a truly incredible moment. It shouldn't be washed away, hand-waved. It shouldn't be even laughed at. This is an incredible moment from Democrats.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.